Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Harris. I'm the Managing Director at the Charles Hamilton Houston Institute for Race and Justice. I'm hoping that my colleague, Sarah DeMott, is available to get us rolling today. We're going to start with a brief video. And so Sarah, just a brief intro about the project, and if you could run Bam's video for us, that would be great.
So good afternoon, and we're just delighted to be here with Melvin White and Bob Glover, who we'll be hearing from shortly. We're going to kick it off and just get you started with a little bit of a background about the project. And we have a beautiful documentary that's 3.5 minutes by Bam Sutton, a beautiful independent filmmaker who recorded this video on beloved streets of America, looking at MLK boulevards in the United States. That is actually just a haunting and beautiful film. And then from there, I think it really will set the tone for us to turn to Melvin for a discussion of his project and his leadership, and then and also his documentary. So let me share this with you, and I hope you enjoy and stay with us, and we'll be back to discuss in about 3 minutes.
Excellent, excellent. That was a great video.
Thank you, Sarah. And at this point, it's my pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, Melvin White, a true visionary, and that is his primary credential. He is a visionary and an inspirational figure. And I'd like him to tell us a little bit about his project and introduce a second film. And just so you know, this is part of an ongoing race and justice film series that we'll be doing throughout the semester. And we're really pleased to kick it off with Melvin and thinking about beloved streets of America. Melvin.
Thank you, Mr. David Harris. I appreciate you once again for having me on. And it's good to meet you, Bob Glover and Sarah. Good to meet both of you guys. So a little bit about me. My name is Melvin White, founder and CEO of Beloved Streets of America. Born and raised in St. Louis, former postal worker, U.S. postal worker. The whole vision of the Beloved Streets project came about way back in 2004, and visiting, well, I was carrying mail, actually delivering mail at the time, and one of my routes carried me along Martin Luther King, and one of my routes carried me on a street called Delmar, which is, they consider the Delmar Divide here in St. Louis, which kind of separates, I guess, the affluence from the poor, that line where Delmar is, where Delmar was starting to be redeveloped at this time. It was starting to bring back jobs, and the area was starting to get businesses starting to come back. Vacant buildings were being restored. And a mile away down on Martin Luther King Street, I looked at the name, and it just wasn't synonymous with what was going on and what Martin Luther King stood for. I mean, this street in St. Louis is only a mile from Delmar, but the contrasting differences were so, blatant. I mean, you had abandoned buildings, drugs and being sold right there in the open. There was prostitution on the street, and the name just didn't match with what Dr. King stood for, So at that particular point, I traveled various MLK streets to try to find out, was this a St. Louis thing, or I've always heard about Martin Luther King streets, that they were in bad neighborhoods. So for 4 years straight, we've traveled various MLK streets across the country, from Houston, Dallas, Miami, Wilmington, Delaware, Houston, Texas, Denver, Colorado, all over the country, in filming and documenting these conditions, and found out the majority of them are just like St. Louis. You have some good points, like Milwaukee is starting to get developed. You have some that are trying to change, but a lot of them are in deplorable conditions like ours here in St. Louis. So we formed a 501c3 nonprofit back in 2009, 2010, to try to get people to galvanize behind the initiative, contribute in any kind of way, monetary resources, any kind of resources that you may have. And so we got an office on Martin Luther King. We started to engage with the community. We was giving out food, clothes. We did this for a year straight every Saturday, where we just got out and just tried to uplift the community by letting them know, hey, we serious about trying to make a change with this. So in the meantime, in between time, 2010 to 15, we were fortunate enough to be featured on some national publications, and we were fortunate enough to meet with Harvard University. They brought architect students out. Dan Doka, he runs the architect department at he is the professor at the design school. So that was the first person that I met from Harvard, you know, and he took his architect students and kind of compared the two cities of Washington, D.C. as well as St. Louis, you know. So we flew to D.C. and we actually looked at both of these cities, and they tried to come up with some design work for me as far as architect buildings, landscape architects. And they say that was one of the best classes that they ever had because it touched on so many different issues as far as race, economics, and it was just a different class versus some of the classes that he had in the past. Instead of just looking at a building and designing a building, it just touched on so many different elements. So 2018, I was fortunate enough to meet, I think it was 17 or 18, met David Harris. You know, and since then we've been collaborating on several projects. I've came to Harvard University several times, spoken in Harvard, and leading us up to where we're at right now here in St. Louis. We have a plan that's about, I'll say, 4 blocks long, that we have a plan where we want to build a technology center, a cafe, arts and culture center. These are some of the things that our grant writers are starting to write grants for right now. And we want to take some of these vacant schools here in St. Louis. There's a lot of vacant schools that exist on MLK and the surrounding areas. So we just don't want to focus on MLK itself, but also the surrounding neighborhoods that encompasses around Martin Luther King Street. So we want to put a legacy park to honor some of our local St. Louis heroes as well as national heroes, because we know that a lot of our history is being lost by not, especially from the younger generation. We want to focus on that in this legacy park. So that's our plan right now. So we have a demographic already set from a street called Hamilton here in Martin Luther King, and it stretches, it goes west through a city called Wellston. And those are the area that we focusing on. That's the first phase of our project. And of course, adequate housing as well, it will be involved with this as well. But just to narrow it down, those are the 4 things that we're focusing on. That's where we're at right now. So we have a big event coming up October 10th. It's called the Mlk Street Festival, where we're gathering all the businesses here in the area, because a lot of these African-American businesses don't know that a lot of these other businesses exist. Because they don't have a budget. They're small businesses, but the name needs to get out. So we're going to have a big event October 10th, and focusing on a lot of vendors, businesses, small businesses, and entertainment. It's going to be things for the kids to do, but this is the first annual MLK Street Festival, and we hope to do these on various MLK streets across the country as well, to recognize what our mission and vision stands for. And so we're excited about that as well. So we're excited about the whole project. So we finally are in a position to get some funds, much needed funds, to complete some of these projects that we have on the table. So, you know, this is just the first phase, but it's just the first phase of many things to be done along MLK Street in St. Louis as well as other cities. So that's where we're at right now.
Thank you so much, Melvin. And for those of you who are familiar with our work, you know, Melvin is, as far as I'm concerned, embodies what we think of as community justice, and that has to do with people in neighborhoods and communities starting to define for themselves what their needs and aspirations are, and taking charge of their fates. We'd like to share another video with you right now, and then have a conversation with Bob Glover and Melvin about kind of the ways in which we might be able to contribute to this project going forward. So Sarah, if you could run that for us, thank you.
America.org. Help us.
How I see my MLK Street.
We're going to talk
today about why we commemorate great people, people who have had an impact on our society, and how we commemorate them. But let's go over some ways that we commemorate people. So what are those?
Well, I mean, we usually put them on, do things like put them on the dollar bill, build monuments after them, name airports after them. Basically just so people see them in everyday life and really recognize their faces.
Yeah, good.
And building off what Beatrice said, it's a lot of it is about recognizing them, you know, going forward. So, you know, 100 years, 200 years later, they still have that face, you know, name brand recognition. That's their reward for their achievements.
Building off that, we also make sure that they're present in our education, for example, in our history and science classes, making sure that we get their names and what they did.
Yeah, we hope so. We even name streets after people that we commemorate.
Sounds good. But that's just not what I see.
Now, there are several things that one could talk about before such a large, concerned, and enlightened audience. There are so many problems facing our nation and our world that one could just take off anywhere. But I'd like to use as a subject from which to speak this afternoon the other America. And I use this subject because there are literally two Americas. One America is beautiful for a situation. And in a sense, this America is overflowing with the milk of prosperity and the honey of opportunity. This America is the habitat of millions of people who have food and material necessities for their bodies, culture and education for their minds, and freedom and human dignity for their spirits. In this America, millions of people experience every day the opportunity of having life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in all of their dimensions. And in this America, millions of young people grow up in the sunlight of opportunity. But tragically and unfortunately, there is another America. This other America has a daily ugliness about it that constantly transforms the buoyancy of hope into the fatigue of despair. In this America, millions of work-starved men walk the streets daily in search for jobs that do not exist. In this America, millions of people find themselves living in rat-infested, vermin-filled slums. In this America, people are poor by the millions. They find themselves perishing on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. In a sense, the greatest tragedy of this other America is what it does to little children. Little children in this other America are forced to grow up with clouds of inferiority forming every day in their little mental sky. As we look at this other America, we see it as an arena of blasted hopes and shattered dreams.
I want to share with you a dramatic little story. It is the story of a man who would be considered a highly successful man. He would have that something called money. Yet a Galilean peasant had the audacity to call that man a fool. Like to look at parable and try to decipher the real reason that Jesus called this man a fool. Number one, Jesus called this man a fool because he allowed the means by which he lived to outdistance the ends for which he lived. He didn't make contributions to civil rights. He looked at suffering humanity and wasn't concerned about it. And so this man justly deserved his title. He was an eternal fool. He probably gave his wife mink coats and convertible automobiles, but he didn't give her what she needed most, love and affection. Probably provided bread for his children, but he didn't give them any attention. He didn't really love them. This man was a fool because he failed to realize his dependence on others. This man was a fool because he said I and my so much until he lost the capacity to say we and our. He failed to realize that wealth is always a result of the commonwealth. No, my friends, I don't want you to forget it. No matter where you are today, somebody helped you to get there. In a larger sense, we've got to see this in our world today. Our white brothers must see this. They haven't seen it up to now. Great problem facing our nation today in the area of race is that it is the black man who, to a large extent, produced the wealth of this nation. The nation doesn't have sense enough to share its wealth and its power with the very people who made it so. I know what I'm talking about this morning. Black man made America wealthy. That's why I tell you right now, I'm not going anywhere. They can talk, these groups, some people talking about a separate state. Go back to Africa. I love Africa. It's our ancestral home. I don't know about you. My grandfather and my great-grandfather did too much to build this nation for me to be talking about getting away from it. Oh, the Pilgrim Fathers landed at Plymouth, 1620, we were here. Oh, Jefferson etched across the majestic words of the Declaration of Independence, we were here. Words of the Star-Spangled Banner were written, we were here. More than 2 centuries. Our forebears labored here without wages. They made cotton candy with their hands and with their backs and with their labor. Now this nation is telling us that we can't build. Negroes are excluded almost absolutely from the building trade. It's lily white. Why? Because these jobs pay, and they don't want Negroes to have it. There were hungry stomachs that needed to be filled. There were empty pockets that needed access to money. A lot of fools around because they failed to realize their dependence on others. Finally, this man was a fool because he failed to realize his dependence on God. Do you know that man talked like he regulated the seasons. A fool because he ended up acting like he was the creator instead of a creature. This man's sin of foolishness is still alive today. You know, a lot of people forget God. People just get involved in other things. Like you to look at parable with me and try to decipher. You may not remember it because it's way back now, several years, but it was the beginning of a movement where 50,000 black men and women refused absolutely to ride the city buses, and we walked together for 381 days. Yes, sir. That's what we got to learn in the North. The Negroes have to learn to stick together. We stuck together.
This man, just beyond words, truly great. He died fighting to better our lives. I mean, this man died for me, and we never even met. Thank you, Dr. King. Thank you. Thank you. I wonder, do they know how I see Martin Luther King Street?
What's up, y'all? This is Bombay Bosa here in St. Louis, Missouri, on behalf of Beloved Streets of America. I'm here to introduce you to the How I See My MLK Street initiative. All right, y'all, now this is it. I need you to go get your phone, grab your fancy cameras. I need you to go get your grandma's old Polaroid and take some pictures of your MLK so we can know how you see your MLK initiative. All right, y'all, now I'm gonna show you what I did for my MLK Street initiative. All right, y'all. Now, I done showed y'all what I got, but I want to see what you got for your MLK Street initiative. Go ahead, send it in. Show us how you see your MLK.
Post your thoughts, pictures, and any forms of artistry to belovedstreetsofamerica.org. Help us better the MLK Street in your city by making a $1 donation with your submission. All proceeds will go to Beloved Streets of America.
Great. I hadn't seen it in a while. That's good. That's an awesome video, man. Now that I look at it.
You know, we're jammed up on time here, and I want to make sure that we have a chance. You know, it's an incredible video, Melvin. I mean, I watch it all the time. I try to share it whenever I can. You know, we're really glad to have Bob Glover with us today to help us think about some ways that we can maybe carry this forward. Bob is the driving force behind our ability to do this project we call Justflix, you know, I want to have Bob talk a little bit about that, and maybe talk to you, Melvin, and folks about a little bit about how we can extend on the challenge that was offered at the end of the film. So, Bob, you know, have some thoughts for us? You're muted, man. You're still muted. Come on, man.
I'm so sophisticated. What could I tell you? You know what? Watching those films, you really start to appreciate the power of storytelling and the ability to tell stories visually. But the one thing that we sort of miss is the power that you have with this thing that you carry around in your pocket. Not just to take pictures, okay? Not just to take pictures. I'm not muted, right? Okay. not just to take pictures, but to actually create video. You've seen the power of this device in the news, where people just happen to be in the right place at the wrong time, so to speak. But think about you as an individual telling your story your way with your smartphone. Okay, that's what Justflix is all about. It's about telling stories that are important to us. They're about social justice, whether it's, what's your passion? Is your passion environmental issues? Is it police issues? Is it the condition of your street? Is it what you see on Mlk Street? You know, if you travel down any Mlk Street, you're going to run through a whole lot of different things. How do you tell that story? You use your cell phone. And what I want you all to sort of appreciate, and this is our approach to Justflix, is this isn't filmmaking, and it's not formal storytelling. This is about your personal, authentic way to tell your story. So that's where we're going. You know, we want to go one step further than just taking still pictures, and we want you to start using your video in that smartphone to tell the stories that are important to you. That's my, you know, that's the big picture for me as far as Justflix goes.
Yep, I like that. Definitely want to get involved with that. Spread the word.
Yeah,
and, this could be something big. So I see this being something big.
Yeah. So Melvin, so when you guys do your street celebration, okay, this is your challenge. We all get. I'll give you an example. Here's the example. You know how when you go to a wedding, and somebody's always taking pictures at the wedding. You know, snap, 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 and then they bring the pictures back and they say, "You want to see the pictures of the wedding?" And you go, "No way do I want to see the pictures of the wedding," because they're just a collection of odd pieces of video. What I want you to do, Melvin, is I want you to get people to think about the story they want to tell. Do they want to tell the story about the merchants that are showing up on the street? Do they want to tell the story about the little kids that are just what story do you want them? Do they want to tell? And it's when you have a focused concept in your head that you end up telling stories that are just mind-blowing. And they don't have to be long. I mean, we're talking about a minute and a half, 2.5 minute story. We're not talking about a 30-minute frontline documentary. We're talking about simple, authentic stories that engage all of us around issues that are important to us.
Gotcha. Yep, that'll work.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bob is such a wonderful ambassador for this project, and speaks with such animation. It's easy, it's contagious, but Melvin, I mean, I think we see this as a continuation of the challenge at the end of the film, and from our perspective, I think both on your street and on these streets across the country, I think we can document, and look, Dr. King's words, are so timely, right? I mean, sadly, that man he's talking about is in the White House, right. So the need to do this work is huge, and it's also a matter of telling the good stories. That's what Bob's doing. I mean, as we know, there's a lot of assets there. There's a lot of stuff that we need to document to counter the narrative that our MLK streets are, as Chris Rock said, someplace you got to run from.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So and the phone, and I think from our perspective, the key to the Justflix is having young people do it.
Right.
The key to it is young people who live on their phones. That's their dimension. I don't know from TikTok, but I think being able to use that phone to express your recognition and appreciation of what we do have, right? And tell the stories of those people like Melvin, like others, on those streets who are doing the work to uplift as a way of getting those young people involved and engaged. And that to us is really important. I want to take a moment to tell people, I think, We do have a little Q&A. We don't have a lot of time, but it, you know, we will kind of try to entertain questions. Now, can you tell us anything about the young man in the film?
Oh, that's my one of my close friends that I grew up, his son, and they put that together for us. That was one of the high school that he went to called John Burroughs here in St. Louis.
Yeah.
He got this one of his teachers, and they did a phenomenal job with the video, and they was trying to surprise me with it, so I didn't know exactly what they were doing, but he just showed me the finished product, and it was great. You know, it took a while for them to do and put it together, but it turned out super. So that's kind of like my little godson that's in the picture. He's probably like about 20 years old now, so he's in that same age group that we're talking about targeting.
Exactly. You know, and I mean, one of the things I loved about the film, and Bob, you can talk about this in terms of storytelling. We do have a question I'm going to get to in a minute. Is the structure, you know, from the classroom to the street, from the kind of theoretical way we honor somebody to what happens on the ground. I mean, to kind of the notion of who's seeing, right? I mean, all those. I mean, there's so many elements in that film that are instructive and creative. And you know, I don't know. You know, Bob, you have some thoughts on that stuff?
Yeah, you know, it's the illustration I used about the going to the wedding and just spraying the wedding with all kinds of pictures versus having a story in your mind. It's you know, basic storytelling is there's something that you're experiencing right now that's your normal. Something changes, and now you meet a whole series of challenges. And after you meet all these challenges, you're successful, or you're not, maybe. But approaching what you're passionate about with that basic structure of this is what we got, this is what's changed, this is our challenge. It's the way you build, you know, you build your narrative, and it's also the way you engage people, because it's not just about. I mean, when we watched this video, the MLK's narration, the images, these were all, you know what they were doing? They were bringing up emotions in me. All right. There was I mean, it wasn't snap of streets or anything like that. There was something in the audio, there was something in the music, there was something in the way this young man just sort of walked through this film. And you know, so there you have the other element, and that's drama, that's emotion. And that's, I think, that's where we start to tell the best stories, the most authentic stories. So.
Let me share this question from the Q&A. It's perfect. The MLK Drive in Milwaukee changes name to Green Bay Road when it crosses through the segregated suburb of Glendale into the white suburb of River Hills, Mequon, is it? The same street. Would pictures comparing either side of that divide be useful for this project? I'm glad to hear some of these words of MLK that I hadn't before. Well, we're gonna have to try to figure out, that was anonymous, and I don't know if the person's gone yet, but the answer is yes. Definitively, yes.
We thought about that too long, yes.
No, I mean, it's in a way, it's so that you can, you know, you have seen that, you notice that, and what we want is to be able to document that so that lots of people can see that and think about and reflect on that and get engaged in addressing what that means. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a perfect example.
It's kind of like that here.
Oh, you still? Oh, it's Sadie. Okay. Yeah, you know, and I have to say, Bob, you know, and Melvin, you know, there's this image. You know, I've seen this several times, but the image of the veteran. Yeah. In the hat. You know, that moment with that narration at that point. You know, it just locks it in and brings it all home.
Yep.
You know,
And I guess the point that I want to reinforce, though, is there was really good storytelling in this piece of business, in this film. But each of us has the ability to tell those stories. I mean, it's just about connecting with your vision and capturing in video those things that that juxtapose what should be and the reality, what was, what's going to happen. I mean, it's just you just have to think visually and think about the emotion and the drama that's involved, and it just starts coming together in a very natural kind of way.
Mhm.
And Sarah and I should say that again, we are doing this project in several different sites, and we're about to engage in a project with some folks down in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Sarah, would you say a word or two about this project and what we're looking for, or do you want me to?
Sure. I mean, I put up the Justflix internship call. If anyone is interested or knows a young person that it would be interested in participating in, what the project is we were teaming up with Fredericksburg, Virginia School District to work with their 11th grade students, a select group of students who have agreed to kind of go through a training process with Bob as a kind of our lead instructor to think about the stories that they want to tell using their phones, learning how to kind of document and narration of all the wedding photos or all the clips that you might take, and actually bringing those stories into short documentaries. So we're looking, as I was, I should come back onto your cameras. We were looking for participants to help us in the facilitation, and we're looking for college age students, students in graduate school to be youth mentors for the high school students and to learn this process of storytelling with Bob. So I've dropped in the chat the application if you know kind of a college age student who would like to participate with us and like to follow us. And it's a curriculum that Bob has shared with us, and it's if I can plug a participatory curriculum, thinking about how school districts might use it, but also personally. There's one thing to have a conversation and a reading group about MLK or go out on a social justice walk through these neighborhoods, but to take the time to make these creative responses, I think brings a much deeper and heartfelt exchange with the location and the writings of King. So thank you, Bob, for leading us in this curriculum, and hopefully, others in our community, I'll put that call back up, would think about either getting involved and supporting the project. So we're very fortunate to have both Bob and Melvin's leadership and direction, and how we might start these conversations and be in touch.
And let me kind of make another plug here. Melvin, you gonna say something, man?
Go ahead. I'm listening.
So again, as Sarah said, I mean, our vision for this Justflix project is very much something that spreads by contagion. And it also is predicated on the notion of having these two age groups working together. It's really predicated on the idea that we have college age students working with younger students, and it is a train-the-trainer model, but so it's also a way of connecting people across these two groups. I think it's really, that's a critical piece of it. It allows us to engage with both university level and high schools, and I was
going to ask a question. Okay, one of the guys that's involved with the Beloved Streets Project, his name is Landon. He has a organization called Mentors in Motion. So he has a bunch of grade school students and high school students. How do he get involved? What would be one of the ways to engage his students? He takes a lot of at-risk youth here in St. Louis, and he teaches them all type of different skills as far as business skills. So I'm thinking, I'm trying to see how do we merge these two together because he has access to hundreds of students. That's what he does. He's a principal at one of the local high schools, but he also takes at-risk youth between the ages of 9 and 15, and I think this would be something great for him to get these students involved with this project. So I'm trying to figure out what's the best way.
You can connect them to me. I mean, you know, we're interested in this. I mean, we have limited resources. You know, I'm not going to lie. Right? So,
right. But just get them involved with the storytelling and the video portion, I think it'll be something big.
Yeah, I have a quick note. A quick note for people who might be considering the training, that you know, this support piece, the college student. It is my intent to work with you in a small group to set you up for what we're going to be doing with the larger group of students, and to sort of monitor it. You know, if I deliver the primary instruction, you guys will be doing the support that goes. You know, you'll work with the groups and you'll work with the students in smaller groups to support them in what they're doing. So that what we want to do is we want to develop in you, the trainer person, a skill set that you can take elsewhere. But we also, and we want you to support the youth in the program. We want you to support them in developing their skill set. I can do but so much with a large group. You guys start to work with this, you know, smaller pieces of that to elevate the experience. So that's the basic concept behind what we're trying to do.
So, and in that score, Melvin, I think the other question is to get some of John David's students from the university. Yeah. So I want to read another comment before we go. It's might not be a bad way to go out with a question from Desney Crosley. Comments. Video storytelling is important in that the uninitiated often won't believe you, can't envision from them a distant problem without our being able to document it or prove it. And then there's a great idea. I mean, I know you all can see this, but we could even dedicate segments of our local Mlk streets to Mlk Jr. and to a loved one and commit to maintain and uplifting that segment for a period of time. When others observe ordinary people taking care of public space, perhaps they'll be inspired to do the same. So that's exactly the kind of thing that we hope people will think about and encourage. You know, we have another project that Sarah's heading up at the library here at Harvard to document, you know, the experience of Black Americans in COVID-19. There's a need for us to document, record, archive, you know, what's going on, what we see, not just for the purposes that Desney says, but also as a record. You know, these stories. This is how we preserve and convey this is our history. You know, this is how we record our history, and history is made by us. So and I am sorry that I know there are people who have classes and we need to let everybody go. So Melvin, Bob, Sarah, just, you know, final words.
I was trying to see what's our next. Are we going to connect again soon?
Next step.
Next step.
Melvin, you know you can't get rid of me, man.
I ain't trying to, man. You my guy, man. No.
I'll follow up with you specifically about the center. Yes.
Okay. Well, let me know the next steps.
Okay.
I'll gather these students and I'll let him know where we.
And I encourage everybody to visit Melvin's website. It's in the chat, and you can follow up with him directly or follow up with me if you have questions or ideas or want to move forward with other projects. Bob?
Don't leave home without it, and don't be afraid to take video and snapshots of what's going on around you. Be present, be thoughtful, be real.
We have a lot
Sarah?
Coming up, so.
Thank you. Last thoughts. I guess I'm going to thank Melvin for bringing us together, because I took a course at Harvard that David was teaching on beloved communities, and this is really the work that you have drawn our attention to from just being involved in your community and speaking out when you saw it. So thank you for starting us in this storytelling.
I'm excited about it.
So with that, everybody, I think I want to thank everybody who's joined us for this hour. I know it's a lunch hour and all, and we appreciate it. as I said, this is part of an ongoing series. We're going to, Sarah, can you put in the chat the link to this series? Do we have a link to the, you know, and we'll leave it on there. And I can't remember when the next film is. The rest of these films will be documentaries. They'll be a little bit later in the day, but we look forward to kind of trying to build an audience and a community around sharing these visions of race and justice. There it is.
Thank you. And our next film is next Friday, and the next 4 films will be in the evenings on Friday, and you can find it on the website that I've put in the chat. It's through Harvard Library Anti-Racism in Film. So, and please, you know, for all of our events, the Charles Hamilton Houston Institute has a fantastic newsletter that that has more information about, happenings in the city, in Boston, across the country, and as well as all of these events. So I really encourage you to sign up for the newsletter, and that'll keep you updated on what we're up to.
Thank you, Sarah. I forget to do that.
It's where I get my information.
Well, listen, I hope everybody had a good time and has a good weekend, and that you'll join us for the rest of the series. All right. So with that, I think we're going to sign off.
I'm excited.
Signing off.
Guys, take care. Have a great weekend.
All right.
Hey, Melvin. Bye, guys.
Bye.